And of course, no speech from any Tory leader in London would be complete without some sort of go on Scottish nationalism and quote-unquote our precious union, which frankly they've done absolutely nothing over the last 20 years to actually preserve.
Now, to conclude this week's episode, we're going to ask whether Rishi Sunak is calling Jeff Aberdeen an extremist.
From gender activists hijacking children's sex education to cancel culture, vocal and aggressive fringe groups are trying to impose their views on the rest of us. They're trying to make it morally unacceptable to believe something different and undermine people's confidence and pride in our own history and identity. Scottish nationalists are even trying to tear our United Kingdom apart.
That's the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, and that is Jeff Aberdeen laughing. I mean, you're bowled over by the energy of his delivery, I think, is the first observation I'd like to make. I'm just taken aback by his passion. Jeff, are you an extremist?
Oh, it reminded me of JFK, the auditory skills on display there. No, I mean, it's just nonsense. Yeah, you know, it's almost 10 years and a few months since David Cameron came up to the northeast, actually to Aberdeen, and had this very panicked speech about you might hate the effing Tories, but don't use that as a reason to break up our union. We recognise you're right, we understand why you're angry, and we know that you've got a democratic responsibility to vote in this referendum. We'll respect you regardless of your outcome. 10 years later that becomes we're bloody extremists. It's just not nonsense. So, I mean, look, it's a core vote strategy, isn't it? Everything he's designed to do, is saying just now, is just trying to appeal to a core vote. And I'm not paying much attention to it. I don't think it does the Tories in Scotland any good, because I don't think if you ask them, they think I'm an extremist, or they think that their SNP parliamentary colleagues are extremists. So I mean, it really doesn't help them north of the border. But Sunak's drinking the last chance saloon, and he's going to try everything.
Some of what Sunak, you know, there are some very extremist groups in society at the moment that are doing exactly what he said, which is trying to force us all to believe what a very small subset of society want to believe. Scottish nationalists are not amongst those groups. I mean, it is ridiculous, completely ridiculous. It is entirely legitimate to believe that Scotland should be an independent country, and the overwhelming majority of nationalists go about that in a perfectly normal way. You know, even if you go onto Twitter, there are as many Zoomer unionists on there as there are nationalists. So I think it's just stupid to bracket Scottish nationalism in anything like the same sentence or paragraph or section of a speech that he bracketed the other people with. To be honest, at this point, who cares? Really? Yeah.
Come on, Andy.
This is death row at this point, though, right? I mean, you know, the problem that Rishi Sunak has, just to sum up, the problem that Rishi Sunak has is Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson got so many votes from so many different sections of the population. We forget that Boris Johnson is a historically, generationally brilliant campaigner who was able to get an astonishing amount of votes. And the problem for Sunak is that those votes, because Boris is not there anymore, those votes are going in totally different directions. So half the Tory vote's gone, but a quarter of it's gone to Reform UK, and a quarter of it's gone to Labour. That's why one day you get him talking about the economy and banning vaping, and the next day you get him talking about boats in Rwanda, because he's trying to get two sets of votes back from completely divergent people. So there is no message, there is no consistency, there is no coherence, and of course no speech from any Tory leader in London would be complete without some sort of go on Scottish nationalism and quote-unquote our precious union, which frankly they've done absolutely nothing over the last 20 years to actually preserve. I don't care.
Passionate.
Well, I mean, Andy, it does suggest that you do care because of what you just said.
No, I mean, I just don't think it's relevant what Rishi Sunak says on this anymore. I mean, you know, the union is now in the hands of the Labour Party. That's the situation. The future of the UK and what the UK looks like and what devolution looks like is now in the hands not of the Tories or, frankly, of the SNP. It is in the hands of Labour. And the big question is, what are they going to do with it?
Yeah. There was a time that I'd have got really upset at all that. And I suppose, to your point, Andy, I'm sitting there just going, aye, whatever.
Jog on. Oh, there we are. Good. On that note.
That's the message
right.
for today's
Should we-
podcast.
should we make that the
listeners, from
title of
Jeff
the
Aberdeen.
episode?
Jog on.
Yeah, well,
That's
let's
a
see.
good title. I like that.
Thank you so much for watching. Press subscribe and you'll get all the best videos offering insight on Scottish politics delivered straight to your feed. Press subscribe and stick around. And if you'd like to hear our conversations in full, open up your podcast app and search for Holyrood Sources.